I do have the time.
I don't have personally.
Good? Good. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the York County Board of Commissioners to order, please. We'll ask everybody to rise. We'll have a pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody to the March 21st Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Present.
Fair.
Present.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Copeland.
Present. Open meetings law is posted on the south side of our chambers, is in the hallway outside of our chambers. It is also on our website. Proof of publication was in the York News Times March 16th, along with also published on our website. Review and approve the minutes of the March 7th Board of Commissioners meeting.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
There is one spelling error, but it's not a big deal. It's just a D missing, so that's on the board. I'll show it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
Copeland.
Yes. Okay, adopt today's agenda. The only change on today's agenda is we will be dropping the discuss and act on approval the variance for Lucas Gruber, and I will explain that later, but that will be dropped from today's agenda. Otherwise, it should be set.
Move to accept today's agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Fair.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler. Brooks.
Yes.
Yes. Officials forum.
Good morning, everyone.
Harvey.
Quick update, we are lading roads. We are doing crack sealing on the pavements. What we're doing right now, we're routering them and then we're putting the crack seal in to keep the water from getting in between the layers of the pavement. In April, we will start doing mastic 1. We got the machines rented so that we can do this in April. This is for the bigger, deeper cracks to get them smoothed out. We'll start on Road E, finish up what we started on there last year to keep it going, and then we have various other places where we need to do this. We do not have enough time nor mastic to do all of them that need to be done, but we will keep plugging forward with that. Bridges. Down on Road O, they have the north abutment is poured. They are forming up the cap on Pier 2, or the north pier up there. So that's coming along quite well. Road 20, they have the pier on the west bridge is where they've been working. They have the pier all poured, the second Pier 2, or the east pier is all poured. They were driving the sheet pile yesterday. They was having some problems with their sheet pile drivers, so they were bouncing between doing the cofferdam on Pier 1 and driving pile on pier or on abutment 2. So that's coming along. Box culverts, Road 2 and Road K, they will start on those theoretically May or April 3rd is when they're supposed to be in. They're supposed to be finishing up a job down to the southwest. Then that crew is going to finish next week, clean up the following week, and start and get moved and get started theoretically on April 3rd is what they were planning to do. We have a pre-con meeting for both of those boxes on the 29th that I have to meet with Van Kurtz and the engineers. That pretty much catches us up with where we are at right now with the road department.
Obviously the time constraint that we have on the two boxes, if weather permitting, April 3rd start date should give us no problems with that.
I sure hope so.
I sure hope so too.
I Can't answer that. It's all gonna depend on what Mother Nature
Right.
does with this.
But, I mean,
In-
like I say, weather permitting, that they
Right.
should be feasible to get those two projects
Right.
in.
Well, and from what I understand, they've been doing a really good job of getting through their boxes, but they're gonna do the biggest one first, which is the one on down on Road 2.
Okay.
That, as of yesterday afternoon, that was the plan.
Okay.
So hopefully, things will move smoothly for us.
Okay. Any questions of ours this morning?
You covered, and we talked about them, but I was going to ask about the time constraints. So, yeah. Yep.
No, he understands what we're up to and what we are still needing.
Right. Yep. Nothing's changed. He
Yeah,
knows
We
it.
got a
All
lot of
right.
projects going on in the county right now.
Oh,
so
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Keep you hopping all over the place.
Well, yes, it keeps me making circles.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
You bet.
Any other officials claims this morning? Okay, public. Public has an opportunity to come forward and comment if they'd like to at this time.
Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13, York, Nebraska, but I live by Bradshaw. Talked to the post office about why my address is Bradshaw. There isn't anybody else. Anyway, couple of comments. The last meeting, nobody cared, but I wasn't here, but I was here. Thank you for your comments about what actually, Mr. Overmeyer, that what you learned at whatever the meeting is, you go out in Kearney about what can go on or what is allowable and not allowable during public forum. I appreciate that. We can talk about stuff that's even on the agenda, the way I understood it.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. And so that and the other comment I have is about a thing about a certain veteran service vehicle that was finally purchased, and if I understood that right, the price was different, and I believe some of the blame goes on you guys because you have a history of putting stuff off, and sometimes it can come back and bite you. In this case, it cost you a little more money. I also believe that it probably wasn't totally you guys' fault, but it was some. But I could name some other things that have been put off that cost some other money. I would talk, if you have an interest in those things, I won't bring them out here. But I can talk to you about some. So anyway, that's another comment. The other comment is about the 1 and 6 year road department that I've been going, or the road plan that I've been gonna talk about for quite a while, but I have not had a chance to talk to Harvey ahead of time because I don't do that. I don't blindside him. And I finally did this morning. And has to do with the famous 4th Street, that my opinion, once again, is that money should not be spent on that road because that ground will get annexed by the city someday. And I don't see the point in spending money on it. And it seemed to me like that program got jumped, that particular piece got jumped way to the head of the 1 and 6 year program. And I was prepared to sit here and talk about several other roads that needed to be fixed that sat there for 6 or 8 years before they got fixed. But I won't do that this morning. But just a reminder that there are people who are thinking 4th Street's maybe not a good thing to work on. And I also understand there are people that would like to have 4th Street worked on. So I get that, but just so you don't forget it.
Thank you, Willard. Anybody else from the public like to comment this morning? Seeing none, we'll keep moving on. There will be an executive session, but we will hold that till the end of the meeting to continue to streamline the meeting here a little bit. There is no general assistance cases that I'm aware of. Next, we will have approved payroll and vendor claims. We will have one additional claim. This is a claim that I'll call a public official claim, but we listed as an additional one because it's actually one to our company, and I would want that pulled. I'll be part of the approval of everything else, but mine will be handled separately. So, and that is a claim for $370, which will handle first all the payroll and vendor claims. Does anybody have any questions on those?
I had some questions, but they were all answered prior to the meeting. We got them all
Okay.
covered, and they were all satisfactory. So,
Okay. Anybody else?
the one that I might point out, it was under miscellaneous, and it was classified as miscellaneous. So that one was just, it was like, okay, what? But it was casters for the movement of security stuff upstairs. So if anybody else saw that miscellaneous, that was what that one was for. I would make a motion that we approve the payroll and vendor claims. Do you want that one
No.
accepted, or it's an additional? So
No,
we,
it's
okay,
act on
so,
it, actually.
yep, so motion to approve payroll and vendor claims as presented.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Omenauer.
Yes, okay, and then the additional claim is to York Boot and Repair, and is for several sewing jobs that we've done for the sheriff's department, hemmings and putting patches on and different things like that, and that amount is $370. And that will be listed as an additional claim.
Motion to approve the additional claim.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler, Bear,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Omenauer.
Abstain. Okay, there is no funding transfers, which takes us right up to Ben Fuller. And you have company with you today.
Yes, sir. Good
Okay.
morning.
So as you guys come forward, we'll just, or are you both gonna come forward?
Yeah.
Again, just who you are and for the record, please, once you get situated. Is this new information that we have not got before?
They may have emailed it to.
Yeah, and I forwarded.
Yep.
Okay.
So I just like to provide a packet just so it's all printed out for you.
Okay.
Yeah, as I said, my name is Ben Fuller. I'm here representing Summit Carbon Solutions. With me today, I have Eric Welsh, who is a PM with Summit as well. In that packet, I just want to go over a couple things. In the packet here, you'll have the Nebraska infograph. It just kind of gives you a project overview of the project, as well as pipeline facts, and then as well as the county map for York, which has shows a 6-inch line on that. Just a quick overview of the project. Summit has proposed a pipeline project going across 5 states, which will connect to 33 plants, which they will capture carbon, and then transport up to North Dakota to where it will be sequestered permanently underground, about 1 to 2 miles. The purpose of this is to help the ethanol plants lower their carbon intensity score so they can stay competitive in the ethanol market, as well as help keep the corn prices in the states high. As if here in the state, 50% of the corn is that's produced in the state is used by ethanol plants to produce ethanol. So with that, just to give you some last county numbers updates. Last time we were here in November, we were at 28% acquisition. At that point, to date now, we've acquired 7.69 miles of the 18.37, so we've gone up to 41.34% voluntary easements. For the state of Nebraska, we are now at 59.86, and these numbers were 315. They could have changed since then, or 189.73 miles that we've acquired for the state of Nebraska. Here in the county, to date, we have paid landowners $1.7 million for their easements as well as damages. And in the state of Nebraska, we've paid out $31 million, over $31 million. With that, I've been working with the Highway Superintendent Harvey. We've submitted the road crossing permits. He's reviewing those. And then I'm also working with Chris Johnson as well, finding out what permitting is needed for the county here. I believe there's a public hearing on the 27th as well that's upcoming, and we'll be attending that as well. So, as well, you know, here in Summit is looking for ways to invest in the community. We've had the opportunity to work with the Nance County Fair and help support them, as well as sponsoring the Norfolk County Ag Banquet and stuff. So if you have any ideas, my business card's in there. Please feel free to reach out. With that, I'll open it up for questions, comments.
Gentlemen?
Where did you put that 6-inch pipeline you mentioned? Is it on here?
It's on the map, it's the route. I mean, we haven't put it in the ground, that's just showing that
No,
the
I
6 inch.
that's what they're planning, 6-inch.
Yes, sir.
When you first came before us, you talked about a 4-inch pipeline, correct?
Correct,
And these shut-off valves every 20 miles.
correct.
How much volume difference in that pipeline changes from 4-inch to a 6-inch or a 10-inch? There's a lot of volume difference.
Yes, sir, there is, and as the design changes, we also, along with that, we'll change the spacing of those valves based on the overall design to compensate for that. So we do take that into account. You're right, there is a large volume difference between the two pipe sizes, and that's not completely nailed down at this point. That's still ongoing design.
But it's part of your proposal, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That brings up an interesting question. So you've acquired some easements along your route as your design changes, and so are those easements, if they didn't have a valve on their property, now they do you have to go back and renegotiate, or?
Yes, sir, so that's a completely separate agreement. So a landowner agrees to an easement for a pipeline across their property, and if something changes, if we go back and put a valve setting or a pump station or anything else additional, that's a completely separate agreement.
Sure.
So who pays for this pipeline? Who pays for it?
You pay for it?
Yes.
So Summit Carbon Solutions is a company with a lot of outside investors, and it's, it's individuals' money and
Private funding.
privately funded.
So how,
On some of the pages, they have some investors, it's John Deere, some of the ethanol plants have invested as well.
so how they recoup their money?
So when the carbon is sequestered, there is a federal, they call it a 45Q tax credit, which is per cubic ton of CO2 permanently sequestered, there is a tax credit issued.
As well as the increased value of the ethanol. A lot of the states out west, Canada, they have a premium that they pay for ethanol, that their carbon intensity score matches their requirements, as well as, I think there's about 15 or 16 other states that have bills or legislature on their desk as well that is moving forward. There's a big push, right, that you've seen change in the last couple of years as far as the lowering the intensities, get to net zero essentially. And this will help those ethanol plants get to that point.
So there's other states besides California that require
California,
this.
right now it's California, Oregon, Washington, and there's 15 other states. You can probably look it up and see what other states are requiring it or have bills on their desk. And then most, or not all of Canada at this point, to sell the ethanol to.
So is there a federal rebate that you're getting?
Well, so I think that's right, so that's the tax credit, that's
The
from the
tax credit, you're getting money from the federal government,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yep.
Who has the federal government's money? The taxpayers, correct?
Oh, you're right, it's taxpayer money.
So it comes back with all of the triple talk and politician talk and everything. It comes back to people are gonna be paying for it, one way or another, correct?
Yes, sir, that's absolutely right, not unlike subsidies for corn and other things. There's a whole lot of things in that category.
And this is just one more.
Yes, sir, you're right, it's one more. That's the fact.
Unfortunately, it's out of your and our hands, right? I mean, I definitely,
Well, I vote too.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, on the pipeline itself, when we're talking about this 6-inch line, and this is gonna be a higher pressure line, and so when we're talking about the volume amount of product, it's a gas product that's going through this line. This ethanol plant is an end point, right? So we're pumping it away. So will that pipeline be, do they make enough that it'll be full all the time? Will there be product running in that pipeline all the time? Or do they sequester it here first and then pump it after you get so much? I mean, how?
No, when they produce it, they compress it and they'll send it through the pipeline.
There is no
So,
storage.
Yeah.
So that will be running product as long as the plant is open.
Correct.
It'll be running it. So will it vary then what it carries?
The output from the ethanol plant should be more or less stable. You know, they operate on a continual basis, and we don't expect a whole lot of fluctuation. I mean, to your point, I'm sure there will be some, but for the most part, it will be more or less static throughout operations.
24/7, 365.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what happens when they do shut down? Like they have a maintenance, like they take off a couple of weeks or a month to go over their plant. What happens then when they shut down?
So the pipeline just won't be in
Operational.
then.
So you use that main line, shut off, shut it off in terms of not pumping from this point on. You go to the Central City and it just stop from here to Central City and then start there, is that it?
Yes, sir. So likely what would happen is, once operation stops at the ethanol plant, whatever gas is in that portion of the line will equalize into the main line until the pressure gets to a certain point, and then we would close that valve and it would just remain static until operation started again.
There's pressure and temperature transmitters, but the pipeline for that 10-inch pipeline, how they're deep is 7 feet down. Are they internet connected? How do those sensors send the signal? Are you running a wire the length of the pipe that makes the communication to the head end? So if there is a leak or there's a pressure change or a temperature change, it knows to shut the system down. How does that operate?
Yes, sir. So that's all. Most of those sensors are on above ground appurtenances, like say a valve setting or a peak launcher or receiver, and then the communication, depending on where it is either a fiber optic or a radio signal back to the control center, which is an house.
Because it says you're using a virtual pipeline to mirror and monitor temperatures and flow, so this is all part of that connection. So you have to have that above ground.
Yes, sir. So that's part of the operations plan and the integrity management plan, is that the pipeline is monitored 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, with operators in the field on the ground and then also in the manned control center in Ames.
So I had somebody ask me, they've got where this proposed pipeline is, it's going to create a triangle in the field that he's trying to farm. And if there's a break or in the time that you're laying that out there, he has no other access to that triangle. What about compensation for that kind of situation? How's that operate?
Sure, there's severed land language that they added to the agreement, the easement agreement when in negotiations for that. So any crop loss or any loss of production due to the pipeline, unable to get to that corner, that he would be compensated for.
And you talk about tiles, but I suppose that also applies to these new underground pipe, irrigation systems that are in it too, that you would be interrupted that way.
The irrigation system, yeah, that's that severed crop loss land. Severed land is what they say, they call it. So for some reason, they have to shut off the irrigation, or they can't irrigate that section while we're in construction, then they'll be compensated.
Right. And then tile, you talk about tiles being repaired, the drainage tiles being repaired, well, if irrigation lines would also be repaired, do something.
Yeah, anything we disturb is put back. Correct.
And you talk about subsoil being set aside, topsoil being set aside, you all put back in it supposedly as it was.
Correct. That's one of the reasons for a 100-foot easement here. 50 foot of it's temporary, so they can separate the subsoil be on one side, topsoil be on the other. So they call it a double ditch process.
Right.
Yep.
Now, this map that you gave us today, it's got a little, for lack of a better term, a little doohickey up here in the corner. That's not been on the other maps. Is that a shut-off valve?
That's the mainline valve. Yep, shut off valve. Yes, sir.
Because otherwise, this 18 miles doesn't have any shut-off valve on
Right.
it, so, you know, they're a long way. And that's just because the volume's increased from a 4 to 6 inch pipe.
I think it's about 15 miles from the plant to that valve currently. If I remember correctly.
Any other questions, Daniel?
Couple questions. So we talked about, I had a question about the plant being shut down. Like our plant here was shut down for quite a while. It is up and running again now, so that's good. But at the end point of this pipeline where you're sequestering the carbon, and of course, I mean, to me, this is all new. Maybe it's not necessarily as new as it seems to be, but so are you acquiring easements and rights to use the area below the landowner's ground in where this is being sequestered? Is that a unending easement, or is it a termed easement, or what?
You know, that's a good question. I know we have secured all of that, but as far as the details of it, I'm
Okay.
not involved in that
Right.
part of the business.
So, and to me, again, sequestering carbon is a fairly new concept. My understanding is that there are areas, some in the U.S. and definitely other countries, that have been doing it for longer. But my question is, okay, whose liability is it when this carbon 75 years down the road isn't doing what we thought it was going to? And it's leaching poison into the water, it's who knows what. Summit Carbon Solutions is gone by that point in time. Whose liability is it now that it's under that poor landowner's ground in North Dakota?
So that's a good question, and that's a big part of the reason why we selected the site that we did. We looked all over the country, and the geology at the place where we're drilling these wells is such that there is a large layer of bedrock above and below the actual zone where the carbon will be stored.
Mm-hmm.
And the science behind it is that the high-pressure liquefied carbon dioxide will solidify in that sand formation and then be trapped by the bedrock above it and below it.
Mm-hmm.
So based on our science, there's no way that would ever come back out of the ground again.
Now, will this sequestered carbon be resold for fracking and for those kind of purposes?
No, sir. So there is no carbon dioxide used for fracking. There are situations where carbon dioxide is used for EOR, which is enhanced oil recovery, which is where it's pumped into the ground in adjacent wells to increase the production of neighboring wells. But this CO2 will not be used for that. It has no place in the oil business. It's going straight in the ground and staying there.
It would defeat the purpose of for the ethanol plants if it were to be used for that, because they can no longer lower their credits, correct?
Has the project timelines changed at all?
Slightly, I
last-
think last time we were here, we were looking at the end of 2023 for construction. That was the target date, and now they're looking at the first quarter of 2024 to start construction, yes, sir.
Okay. So I assume that as we keep going forward, you guys will be back to give us updates and what have you.
We try to hit every 3 months, it just kind of depends on how it falls, and it's trying to get in there, all the counties, there's 14 counties here in Nebraska, I think there's 86 total on the project. So trying to get in there with it, you know, there's only a handful of us out here
Okay.
giving updates, so, yeah.
And not, excuse me,
Go ahead.
not far from us with a natural gas pipeline, farmer was deep ripping, and then along with the land movement and stuff, you know, they actually connected with that pipe to it was 4 foot down. And your proposal is 4 to 5 foot down to the 6-inch pipeline.
Correct.
Is there monitoring that goes on, so a farmer is changing the, you know, the slope of the hill for the pivot or whatever they're doing, and then they do grit? Are you guys, is there ongoing monitoring of what farmers do with their practice and with how this pipeline played out, so that that kind of situation doesn't happen again or down the road?
Yes, sir. So things we do to mitigate that is, like I mentioned earlier, we have field personnel on the ground on a daily basis, monitoring the lines, and then we also do aerial patrols on a regular basis. And then anytime that anyone, whether it's a farmer or a public utility or any individual, does excavation over the top of the pipeline, they're required to call 811 and make a one call, and then at that time, Summit would have a representative on site anytime that there's excavation going on within the right of way.
And then the other thing is, what happens when we have that big deluge rainstorm? Will it follow this pipeline and rip it out, or is there going to be enough compaction that it's not, you know, have that pipeline exposed?
Yes, sir, so that's part of the reason for the depth of cover, and then also the way that the ditch is backfilled after the pipe is put in takes that into consideration. And we also add extra depth at any stream or waterway crossing, or a lot of times at a stream, what we'll do is do a bore underneath to where we're a long way away from that, and we don't disturb anything that's there. We get down into the stable.
Below the riverbed.
Yes, sir. And then we also monitor if there are large rain events, we go out into the field and look and see if there has been any erosion that occurred, and then handle it from there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What, one quick follow-up. Do you have, so this is a fairly high-level overview map. I would be curious if you have the route laid out on a Google map that you could email a link to, that we could zoom in and see a more definite route.
Sure. Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that.
Okay.
I'll be sure to get your.
Yeah, that'd be great.
before I leave today.
Thank you.
Or I can send it to Kelly.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go.
Thanks.
Any other questions this morning, guys? Okay, it's been good discussion. Thanks for coming around. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again.
Yes, sir, I appreciate your time, and like I said, I just ask that you do your due diligence and verify what we've said, so.
Okay.
And then I will also find out about the sequestration and get that emailed to
Yeah,
Kelly for
cool.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on down the agenda. We have the juvenile diversion JS grant. Tristan?
Thank you. Thanks.
of today, I'm still waiting on a couple emails back from the Crime Commission, so I just asked you guys to approve for Mr. Overmeyer to sign, later on. So March 31st is when it's due, and I'm just figuring out a couple of financial things with the Crime Commission, just to double check and make sure everything's straightforward before I submit it. So, I do have the overall, what I will be asking for our personal wages and for travel and operating expenses, and that's on page 7. And so, main goal for this JS grant is to get our part-time person to stay on and hopefully go full-time. And then just along with it, some training expenses, traveling to those trainings, and some of the other traveling expenses I've put in previous grant. Mostly, so keeping at the $23 an hour, I'd move it up to 40 hopefully for a part-time person if you've been working on our 2 programs, the attendance monitoring program and the juvenile support program. We saw this year an increase in all the students that we've monitored, enrolled, and sent to juvenile court for absenteeism. And so just the volume of cases and kids that we are kind of intervening with and helping out myself and another part-time person it's very difficult to give the kids the time that they need to face these problems and kind of figure it out with the schools and everything. Then on the juvenile support side of things, that's where we kind of go into the schools, help with mental health issues, grade issues, stuff like that, that the school kind of just needs some additional help. I also am planning on doing some kind of extra trainings for teachers and staff members, and then also hopefully start some like decision-making class, some substance classes and stuff like that for the kids. So those are kind of all the things that will be wrapped into the juvenile support side of things. And so I myself will still be working in those programs and taking up where Brennan won't be able to pick up. But I am hoping this can free up some time so I can start to focus some more on Divergent and then some more on just program efficiency and working with the attorneys to see what we can do to make sure that we're actually helping all the families and kids. So, yeah.
Any questions of Kristen while he's here? Just to recap, Kristen, this is this is an additional grant to the other grants that we've already received. This is a grant that would turn Brennan full-time for the budget year 23-24.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we're closing in on the end of our 22-23 budget year, which the third supplement grant we got was to employ a part-time from January to the end of the budget year, which is end of June. So in some of the previous grants, we've had, and I know they've went away from the 10% match. There's nothing on this one, right? This is what it is. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. Or do we get a portion of it?
So they can decide if we do on page 5, question number 3, it kind of covers that if we can do a partial funding source, and I just put in there if it is partially funded, what it would change. The major thing is being able to have the additional work hours, and then depending on what we would get, it would also depend on incentives and travel and training that I could fit in there. So if they give us a partial award, I will more than likely keep Brennan under between the 25 and 29 hours, and then whatever that comes out to, I can figure in the incentives and training for for the programs.
And he's okay with that to be,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, because at this point, the way this looks, there is no financial obligation to York County.
Correct.
There's obviously a benefit with these programs to the students of York County, but there's no financial obligation to York County.
Correct.
Yeah. Joan, and this is to sign it, it needs to be in by the end of March. Does it say in there when they're going to let?
Well, I
you know?
emailed them last week, so hopefully they get back to me sometime this week about some of the questions that I was asking.
Okay, but their decision in this
Their
process.
decision would come, at least a month later, if not earlier. So
Okay.
with the CB and the EV grant, I think it came in 3 weeks after everyone submitted,
Okay.
so.
Anybody else?
Yeah, source of this is planning commission this time,
Correct.
which still goes back to local tax dollars.
Yeah, and so, with all the different, I think, kind of like bills and everything, they have the allotted amount to all the counties and everything, so I think, just like last year, there was some additional funding left over, so I don't know what other counties are utilizing it and stuff like that,
I would go ahead and make a motion that we authorize chairman to sign the juvenile services grant application.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler. Bear.
Yes.
Yes. We will get that signed today, Tristan.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, next up. Bob, you're way in the back. You and Jared. This is to discuss an act on improvement to York University Freeman Center, and this is York County Improvement Fund.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Bob Sauter, Director of the Visitors Bureau. This is Jared Stark, he's Vice President for Advancement at York University. I think he has some additional information there to pass out
Okay?
to you.
Jared Stark, 631 East 9th Street, York, Nebraska. I got some pictures I want to pass out.
Sure. Go ahead.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Jared had applied for funding last month, and Visitors Bureau had a unanimous vote to recommend it on to you folks here. They were asking for $100,000. We're recommending $50,000 over a 2-year payout. That makes it a lot more doable for us as far as other projects that come in.
So, what you have there before you are some before and after pictures. This is the latest renovation of our Freeman Center gymnasium on campus. The building that was built in 1974. The project you're holding is called the Lemons Project. It's in honor of a former student who was killed in a car accident. Family wishes to honor his memory. It's a $630,000 project in total. To date, we've raised over $500,000 on this project. It's part of a comprehensive campaign for York University. The goal is to make the gym itself, our campus, a more attractive and functional site to draw external events to York County. This project is not completely done, it's almost done. It's already working where we're seen as a more attractive site for tournaments and and even championships within our conference to come and have their events here. These tournaments bring visitors to York County, to our hotels, and to our restaurants. The footprint of the training room has tripled in size. It makes it a much more attractive place for people to come and play if they need injury care. We have guest spaces where they can reserve and rent. Again, just to draw more attraction to York County. Any questions about what you have there in front of you?
An additional note, and Randy, I don't remember, do you remember 6 or 7 years ago, we did a grant for bleachers up there to enhance their chances of landing more tournaments, bringing more people in.
We was part of that. I can't remember what the funding source was on that, but we was part of that.
Yeah,
that
we did
project.
$50,000.
Did we? Okay, this was something that, as Bob said, that was brought in front of the visitors. There was some good conversation about it. We did decide to unanimously recommend $50,000 versus the $100,000 they were requesting. As Jared, I believe, said that day, of course, they'd be welcome to anything, and that's where we came up with that. We came up with a 2-year payout for it. I've used this seat before to say that I think York does not look the same without York University, and I'm actually starting to say it now instead of York College that I grew up and was very familiar with. In it, big proponent for that, even though I never was a person of higher education. I think it's very important. The kids that we get into our store, that this university brings into town, are Class A kids. They're great kids. And I think this is a project that is well worthy of our help to them. I know that recently the Crossroads Conference that York gets every year, I believe utilized your facility for the first weekend.
Yes.
So we can definitely say that it does fit into that tourism factor, let alone, as they said, the conference play and everything else that goes on there. So.
The other thing we just hosted just about a month ago was the KCAC Conference Cheer and Dance Championship. It's a national qualifying meet. So it brought 10 to 12 teams throughout Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri to York to have it at our facility. Something that would not have happened 5 or 6 years ago. They would have seen the facility and thought we could go somewhere else with this tournament, but the attractiveness of the site draws people. There was plenty of hotels at the I-80 and 81 interchange. It makes it, again, a great place to come. But if you don't have a site on campus that matches that quality, then they might look elsewhere. But this has put us in a higher tier for people to come and choose and select our site for their tournaments and different things. I might add to something that Randy said. I'm from Lincoln, which is not too far away. My wife is from Texas. She came here to play volleyball and has stayed here. And I could give dozens and dozens of more examples of that. When we have a better facility that attracts folks from our states that come here and go to school to play sports, and the training room is definitely a huge part of that selection process for students where they want to go to college, and they stay. They don't all stay, but many of them stay. I'm an example. My wife's an example, and most of our peers that live here in York County are examples of that as well.
I think a lot of people tend to forget about the economic impact that the university has in the community. And there are a lot of students that marry and stay, raise their families, get involved in the community. But their parents and friends and grandparents are coming to the events that we host.
And I will add that Jared had offered a tour to me. I assume that extends to all of you, and unfortunately I haven't got there, but I will get there because I have talked to people that have been there and said, these pictures don't do it justice. It really, really looks good inside there. So I will get the guys your number, and hopefully at some point in time we can get up and take a look at what you guys got going to, firsthand.
I would vouch for that. If you have a chance, go up. It's a big change and a big improvement.
Go ahead, Stan.
Did you ask for any money from the city?
No, this is the only request that we've made other than to our alumni.
And so why not?
I don't know if I have a great answer for that question. I'm not sure what avenue there would be for that. I've been in this job for about a year and a half. I'm familiar with the York County Visitors Bureau, but not every avenue that we might be able to ask for money. This is one I was aware of.
I don't know if the city has grants for that type of thing, Stan.
I'm not aware of one, but I would.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one either that the city would have access to.
It's my job to ask for these things for York to our alumni and other constituencies. We're in a final push for our alumni to donate on this project. We have well over 200 alumni that have given this project. So we have pretty excellent buy-in at this point, but the cost was driven up considerably by construction inflation for when we launched this project. Otherwise, I think we would be pretty close to our totals, but we're still raising money for it.
Did I hear you say that you've already raised 500,000 or something right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're over 500.
That all from your alumni?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. We had a lead gift of $200,000 of a challenge gift from one of our alumni from 1995. That mobilized a lot of people to give, and so we've been successful with it, but trying to finish the funding.
That's something you can ask your community foundation for?
Perhaps I've been down to having a chat with them, but haven't made a request down there yet. That is another entity I'm aware of that you can request funds for. Yeah.
We've also granted money to the Clayton Museum of Ancient History on a couple of projects, and we've helped with their advertising a little bit every year as well.
I do, Randy mentioned that York looks a lot different if the university isn't here, and I would agree with that. I think it's good that we have a good education system here in our town. I will admit that when I first saw it, I was very leery. When it comes to public funds and providing that to a private entity, we have to be very careful on what we're providing the funds to. Reading through it, hearing what you've shared and what Randy shared, seeing the pictures and some of the stuff that you've talked about, how it could help bring outside people into the community, which funds this fund, does help to make it something that we need to consider, I guess. Who is the facility? Is it open to? Is it open to the enrolled students, or what? Or those that are coming from outside events or whatever, or how? What's the?
The simple answer is it's open to everyone on a reservation basis. We've hosted many different types of groups. We've hosted district title games. We've hosted, in addition to our college and university events, high school events. We have an open door policy with the local high school for them to come in and use our facility when they're tied up at the high school and need a place to practice or play a game. By reservation, it can be scheduled by anyone.
Okay.
Used to host City League basketball games when it first opened. We still do.
I think they're playing at the auditorium. The south end of this project, of the Freeman Center, is the training room addition. The north end addition, you probably saw a picture of the new locker room in there. Facilities is just a major draw for students and for visitors. If they're looking to place a weekend tournament or go somewhere for a weekend, they want to go someplace that's comfortable, they can handle all their needs. We have a guest suite. There's one picture where they're up in the VIP room with some chairs. They can look out over the court and watch the game. So we're able to provide not just a great game day atmosphere, but a great meeting room atmosphere where they can have their coaches' meetings. It's just an incredible addition. That north end used to be an old stage that hasn't been used. I was a student here from 97 to 2001. I don't ever remember that stage being used. It was basically just junk and storage underneath. That's all been torn out to create an incredible new locker room. And then upstairs, some office space and a VIP space where guests can use that for meetings. So it really does, it puts us in a much higher tier when being considered for tournaments and events.
Is that like by reservation? Is there for outside entities? Is
Yeah.
there a charge for the use of the facilities, or
There's not right now. That there may someday be, but right now our job is to promote the renovations we've done.
Mhm.
So when we do a campaign wrap up, we'll create a special information flyer on this that will circulate to all the local areas to say this is a newly renovated space. You can come and host your tournament.
Mhm.
Right now, there's not the high demand for that, but folks don't know it's necessarily there
Sure.
yet, so we'll
Yep.
let them know.
Mhm.
And sometimes that question depends on who asks.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
right?
we have some cooperations and agreements with some other places where they don't charge and we don't charge, but it just kind of depends on who asks.
Mhm.
So for a little bit of information, and I believe Stan and Woody, I don't know if we've covered this before, but there's 4% on all lodging and split between improvement and that. So the improvement fund at our last meeting was sitting at roughly help me with memory, just under 280,000. To date, that fund has brought in through this budget year. It's over expectations. We have brought in about 187,000 to date, and we look for that fund to probably be 200,000 to 225,000 easily through the budget year. With that 280 roughly, we do have 100 of it spoken for yet that we have to pay out to the playground that's being installed at Meeks Park. And we also have, what else do we have?
25 to the playhouse.
To the playhouse that they are still on. So those are the only commitments
Yeah,
yet.
there's a couple of small ones, fairgrounds with,
The projectors,
haven't paid that out
which was just 6,000, I think, on the projectors, and I think they were changing routes on that anyway, from what we heard. So there is funds available, and it looks like we went through the COVID lull to where we're getting back better than what we was before, because obviously room rates have went up, that the number is so much higher that we're getting in.
yet. Last year was the highest collections that we've ever had, and it was over 400,000, and this year is ahead of last year, so hoping for 150 to 500,000.
Okay. Any other questions this morning?
I'll just, I guess the request of 100 was that was plenty high for my taste. The 50, I'm not sure where I fall on the 50 right now. I think something is warranted, and so that's kind of where I'm sitting right now, trying to weigh exactly how much.
The board has discussed this and unanimously agreed to the 50,000.
That's our recommendation to this board, yes.
This board. money, people.
And it is.
Yes, and when we travel, we
We
pay
pay
it
it.
elsewhere. Yes, we pay it in Kansas City, we pay it in Omaha, we pay it everywhere else that has it. You're absolutely right. Well, we'll see where it goes. You're gonna make a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve their request for $50,000 to be paid out over a 2-year period. That's $25,000 a year for the next 2 years.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call please, Kelly.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Brooks,
No.
and Overmeyer.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, we'll discuss and act a resolution to submit your public transportation operating assistance application and to set a hearing for changes of services. Morning, Lori.
Lori Myers, York County Public Transportation. And this is the time for us to submit our next 2 fiscal year, it's a 2-year budget to NDOT for the purpose of the York County Public Transportation Plan. I do have a little breakdown of what I'm looking at submitting, if you guys would like to look at that. Should be one for each of you. Again, this is for a 2-year period, so what I did is I figured up year 1, which is kind of working on this next year's budget, and then I multiplied it by 3% and added that together to get 2 years, so gave another 3% on top of this next year's to get the second year's. And then, as before, I'll explain to the new people that I haven't explained this because this is the first time going through this budget for them. When we request these monies to NDOT, we're requesting reimbursement for federal funds and state funds and giving them an idea of what we're gonna be providing as far as local funds go. When we do that, we are locked in for state funds. If we have an increased need in the second year, we have no way of getting increased state funds. Now, we can get increased federal funds, but in the past, what's happened is we went slightly over because of the gas prices. This was some years ago when they were really high, we weren't expecting them. So we exceeded our budget. We were able to get federal funds for their portion. We were not able to get the state funds because those have been locked. So then our local funds is where we had to get it from, which meant it was the county. So since then, I've always built in the budget that goes to NDOT with some wiggle room, so that if something should happen unforeseen in the future, we'll have plenty of state funds and don't have to worry about missing out on those state funds and having the county have to provide that portion. So this budget is more than what you will see the budget come through that I present to the board, just to give that padding to be able to provide that should we need it. Because it's a 2-year budget, sorry, my hand. Because it's a 2-year budget, we really don't know what we're gonna see the second year. And this is the second year that we've done a 2-year budget. And it's not fun. So that's why I built a little more wiggle room in it this time. So that is just numbers that won't look like what our budget, exactly what our budget I'll be submitting here, but numbers I'm submitting to the feds to give us that wiggle room should we need it. So we just need to do a resolution to NDOT that we're going to be requesting operating assistance. That's the first thing. And then at this time is also our ability to look at our fares and make changes to that. And to do that, we have to hold a hearing. And in looking at our fares, the last time we did this 2 years ago, we started what's called our expanded routes, which allow us to go within 120 miles of York on any day, provided there is a driver and a vehicle available. And they pay $20 round trip for rides such as to Omaha, to the medical center. We've gone to Hastings, we've gone to Columbus, Kearney. We've even gone down to Geneva, all for the same $20 round trip price. What I would like to do is look at increasing anything that we do that's out of county. I do not want to, I don't think it's warranted to increase in county. So in county, we have the local rides, which are within city limits, which are $2 each way. That's the full price, and then again, we have a sliding fee scale based on income. And then in county, it is $4 per boarding. And again, that sliding fee scale applies to that as well. So those I'm not looking at increasing. But what I would like to propose, and we have to do this, we have to have a hearing and have a public opportunity to comment. But what I'd like to do is increase our out-of-town Thursday rides, which is when we can do multiple people when we go to Lincoln or Grand Island. We usually go to Lincoln on the first, third, and fourth Thursday of each month, and to Grand Island on the second Thursday of each month. And those have been $12 round trip, and I'd like to increase that to $15 round trip. I think that's still a good value based on prices, gas prices, and everything. And then the out-of-county expanded trips, what I'd like to do is segment those into within 60 miles and then within 120 miles. So keeping the out-of-county expanded trips within 60 miles, such as to Lincoln, to Grand Island, to Geneva, on days that aren't Thursdays, that would be remain at the $20, and I would like to increase the ones within 100, from the 60 miles to the 120 miles, I'd like to increase that to the $40. The reason why I do that is because reason why I'm proposing that is because when we go to Omaha with one person, we have to stay there. It's not something where we can come back into town and drive other people around. We have to have a driver sitting out there waiting for that person, and they could be waiting anywhere from an hour to 4 hours, depending upon what procedure they're having done or what purpose they're going there for. So that would be my proposal that I'd like the board to consider, and then if you guys are in agreement with that, then we'd have to set the hearing for the April 4th, and then give public a chance to respond, and then go from there.
Is there any regs or guidelines for adopting or setting fees? Obviously, we're doing this, and obviously a ride to Grand Island at $20 for a round trip is a bargain in my mind. So it means the taxpayers obviously are covering it. So do we have any regs that we are supposed to go by, or is these just all fees that we set?
These are fees that we set. NDOT recommends that we look at other providers within our area, and I've looked throughout the state, and other providers are doing it any number of ways. There's some providers that are charging a per mile fee, and there's others like us that are charging a per rate, and then there's others that are doing based on the area. If you go this far, it's this much, and this far, it's that much. So,
And it is totally up to us.
it is
how we
totally up
want
to
do it.
us. Yeah.
Okay. And do we have to have you have studied these rates. When we have the public hearing, do we have to have the rates solidified before that, or can we do them at that day?
We do have to have that before that, because they have an opportunity to look at what we're proposing
Okay.
10 days prior to the hearing. And then at the hearing, then you have the opportunity to solidify it, and then it goes into NDOT as what our rates will be.
Okay. So, input from the board, do we feel comfortable with the recommendation, or do we want more input on what the rate should be? Which means, because we're not time constrained on doing this, right? We wouldn't,
The only constraint is submitting the budget.
that part we can do, but holding the public hearing and setting the fee changes.
Right.
We could either do it the April 4th or the second meeting in April,
It would
right?
just delay our budget because the fares that we gain.
Has to be in the budget.
Would be, we have to project how much we will get in fares.
And this is,
In the budget.
this is the budget that's a 2-year budget. It's
It is.
23, 24, 24, 25, right?
Correct.
Okay. So do we have a deadline to get that budget into this?
They'd like it by the end of March, but most of us are not able to do that because we all got it late, so.
So if
I
we
would
got
say
it in
we-
April sometime, we're
it'll-
good.
Yeah, because we have until, it'll start July 1st, so we have until then, but the sooner we get it in and they can get everything sorted, then the sooner we can submit reimbursement for our July through, the month of July costs.
Right.
No, we had our,
Go ahead, Jim, go ahead.
when we had our meeting, we discussed this proposal. But we also talked about the fact that these rides are not all for medical, correct?
Correct,
Anybody can call one a ride to Omaha, let's say to do shopping or whatever,
right.
and they might be there more than 4 hours, and you still gotta pay that driver to sit there all day long, probably, or
Yes.
possibly.
But it would also be within the confines of, do we have a driver available, what's
Right.
their time, and do we have a vehicle? So if they wanted to go shopping and spend 8 hours there, we may not have a driver that's going to be able to do that, we would deny the ride.
I understand that,
Yeah.
But if we approve the ride, that driver's gonna be paid for 8 hours sitting around.
Correct.
Now, when, getting off the aging a little bit, but with the same thing with the VA, if we go up and drive somebody to a VA appointment, they might be there a lot longer, but those are all volunteers. They're not being paid.
Right.
So that's something that, in this public hearing, that we need to discuss, because we're gonna be paying for a lot of downtime.
Yeah. And that's what we've used when we get the request. I've looked at those requests and what the time constraint would be.
So our chairman of our board up there was very loud in talking about, that's what we're here for, correct? So, that's why I brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah, we did, I failed to mention, we did have this discussed in we have a York County Aging Services Board, which also has a subcommittee for public transportation, and we did talk about this at that board meeting.
Daniel?
We're not necessarily in this to make a profit.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
But we, on these out of scope, if you will, trips, we want to at least cover our costs. Would that be? Or,
What NDOT has recommended
Mhm.
is that we look to cover 10% of our costs.
Okay.
Locally. The
Okay.
rest come from federal and
Sure.
state
Right.
and fares.
Yep. Okay.
And
So
I'm sorry.
No,
It's
go
just,
ahead.
When we look at rides, our medical, they can't help how
Sure.
long they're there.
Right. Exactly.
And I really, my heart goes out to the people who have medical needs,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're in a wheelchair and we're the only entity
Sure.
that can provide service to them. I don't look to the rides for shopping in the same vein, even though we're public transportation. So
Right.
those are things I have to keep in mind where we will negotiate sometimes with people or tell them, they might request it every week and we might look at it, well, okay, if you go on the Thursday ride, that's fine.
Sure.
Because we're gonna have multiple people there, we're gonna be in town all day.
Yep.
But if you're requesting it on an alternate day, we just don't have the staff available to do that. So we try and encourage them to use the
Scheduled
Thursday
ones.
rides
Right.
for those purposes.
Mhm.
And for the most part, that works out for them. The other thing is that we have given rides to the airport
Mhm.
when they weren't able to get on the shuttle service or weren't able to afford the shuttle, and we knew the circumstances, but the only way we have is just to be able to say the limit is based on drivers.
Right.
And I look at the amount of time the driver's gonna be sitting there,
Mhm.
and use that as a consideration.
Right. So that brings up a good question. Like an airport run, is that a one-way? Right.
Same price.
Right, yeah.
Whether they go one way or both ways.
Right.
And we
And-
purposely did that because we still have to go all the way out there and come all the way
Right,
back. Whether
exactly.
we're just dropping them off or sitting there.
Yep. Right. Okay. I get it now.
And then
Makes sense.
we've also had instances where we've had to go to Lincoln to pick somebody up to bring them into York for business and then take them back to Lincoln. That gets billed as two
Sure.
extended
Yep.
trips.
Right. It- I guess from just so we as a board can kind of understand, are you comfortable? I mean, you're proposing the changes, so I assume you're comfortable with those changes. And the board, it was discussed, sounds like, and they were comfortable. Just give us.
At the time we had the board meeting, I hadn't looked at the county budget, and we are better sitting in the county budget than I thought we were at the board meeting. We were talking about volunteers and getting volunteers to help provide the service, which I'm still all for.
Mhm.
We've had volunteers in the past. We'd love to get people to volunteer to drive for us. And they would drive our vehicles. We have to do, there's a certain number of things we have to do
Sure.
with volunteers because, they create
Yep.
liability just like a driver does, so there's certain tests they have to do. And we've used them in the past, and they would allow more of those expedited trips, maybe that could be longer. If we could get a volunteer for that trip, we might be more able to provide shopping or those other things than that, but
One final question, maybe, but anyway, how many expanded trips in the past year? Is it used a lot? Is it
it is
sparingly?
used a lot
Okay.
more than I thought it
Sure,
would be
yep.
when I first proposed it 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I have asked the dispatcher to pull it in a little bit
Mhm.
because we have to live within our budget.
Yeah, sure.
So, and then when I reviewed the budget again, we're sitting okay, so we did let it out a little bit more, but, we've had to turn down the number of rides, because it is so popular, we don't
Sure.
have the staff and vehicles, because we have to have a vehicle and a staff, both,
Yep.
to be able to do it and still live within our budget. So there's more demand out there than our budget would allow.
Sure.
Let's put
Yep.
it that way.
Right. Yep.
So I'm the antique rookie, you don't know everything. How many vehicles do you have? How many drivers do you have?
We have 3 full-time drivers and we have 3 part-time drivers. And we have another part-time driver that's due to start. Now, part-time drivers, they'll drive anywhere from 1 day to 2 or 3 days a week under 20 hours. The full-time drivers have to drive at least 30 hours. And we have 5 vehicles that are great, and we have 2 backups that are, we keep them in town, the backups. That we use those mainly for when we need to put one of our other vehicles in the shop, to have an oil change or something fixed.
So it's possible you could have 5 vehicles on the road.
Yes, there's many days we have all 5 vehicles on the road and running at the same time, yes.
So how busy are you? Is there a you have a spreadsheet that shows, okay, this week we've
Oh,
300.
I can
trips
get
or
you
whatever.
any kind of you want. I don't have it with me today, but yeah, we have, our system is run through, it's called CTS, and it's all automated. So we have a dispatcher who puts everything in the system electronically, and it's pushed out to all the drivers through a tablet in their vehicle that tells them each pickup they have to do, and we can give all kinds of data reports on that. We can break it down by billing source, whether it's reduced rate, whether it's billed to HHS, whether it's an expanded service. You tell me what you're interested in, and I'd be glad to run reports for you. You'll get more data than you want.
Amen.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions of Laura this morning? We have that numbers, you have the numbers again, of the fee changes.
Yes.
I don't have I didn't write them down, and obviously that conversation was
There's my draft to the updated policy.
fairly lengthy. Okay.
It's at the very bottom where it talks about expedited trips is where the change is at. Because these changes to our fares are in our policy, so it would be done by updating our policy. And there's just the 2 paragraphs that talk about fares in that policy that would be changing.
Okay.
And that's why I break it down where within 60 miles is the $20 and within 120 miles is the $40.
So those are the only two.
That and the Thursday trips would go from 12 to 15.
Right, okay. In city, it remains the same at 2.
And
In county
it
at 4.
remains the same.
And out of county Thursdays is at 15. And that includes a return ride. Out of county expanded is $20 for 60 miles, $40 for 120 miles. That includes the return ride. And there is a $2 fee for additional stops.
And that's not a change to that fee.
That's
So like if they're in town and they go to multiple stops, it's $2 each stop. If they're in Lincoln, which is still a good buy, that have multiple stops, like they may go to have some procedure done and then want to stop for lunch. So that would be an extra $2.
Okay. I guess the question would be, is everybody comfortable with those fees? Obviously, their board recommended them. This is the director's recommendation, but it would probably be up to us, I assume,
It would be
to
up to
set
this
them.
body to approve it.
The people that are not using the service, there's some fees that you can.
I haven't heard that because we do have the sliding fee. The sliding fee scale goes down to, it can make it as cheap as half. And then we also do fees through HHS. So there are a number of clients in town who get services through Medicaid or through HHS where they bill us and we provide the service. And then if there's a medical need, they get transportation through their non-emergency medical transportation providers. That is an issue, but there's not time enough to talk about that today, but there is an issue there. So, but we've not heard anybody, but then again, I don't know that they would let us, they're not calling us up to tell us they can't use us because we're too expensive. Most of them are saying, this is a good buy.
Yeah.
And these fees that we would set at this public hearing, they would be a 2-year fee structure. So we wouldn't.
Well, they would be ongoing until they're changed again. So they would, they're not limited to 2 years.
We
They
could
would-
change them if we
could
wanted to this fall, or.
No, I'm sorry. We could change them again in 2 years, but if we don't change them, they would continue on the way
Okay,
they are.
so this is setting them for the 2 years of that.
Yeah, and beyond, unless we change them.
But we couldn't change it until 2 years from now.
Right, correct.
We could, but it's more difficult. We have to write a letter to NDOT, we have to do the hearing, we have to get permission. But this is a given time when they're expecting changes to come in.
So what do you need of us today, I guess?
We need a resolution that we're gonna be applying for operating assistance, and then we need approval to set a hearing date to get input from the community on the proposed change in fares.
Do you have the resolution?
I can send you, it's just like all the ones that we've done in the past years, I can send it to you.
So first off, we'll operate on approving a resolution to submit the York County Public Transportation Assistant application.
I would make that motion.
Right, this is out of county, this is in county.
Thank you, Stan. So we do have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution to submit the York County Public Transportation Operating Assistance application. Any other discussion? call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Yes, and next we need to set a hearing date with the changes to do this, and you would like to do it April 4th.
If that's, that would be up to you.
Is everybody good with the changes that have been recommended?
Yes.
Okay, so then I don't see a problem with setting
Right.
the hearing date. I don't know that we need to have that as a motion other than setting the hearing date as
No,
April
okay,
4th.
something out to the
We'll do a
newspaper.
public hearing at 9 o'clock.
We already have a 9:30, so.
9 o'clock.
All right.
Great. Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you, Lori.
Is the next one hers also?
Yes, discuss and act on update York County Public Transportation Title VI policy.
This is the one that I sent to Kelly. I have one for you to sign with the little things where it needs to be signed. NDOT requires us to update our Title VI policy on a 2-year basis. And so they have an entity that they work with to kind of help all of us prepare them. This is what they've sent me. I have given it to Gary, and he's had a chance to look at it and says that it looks good. So I am proposing that we adopt this Title VI policy for York County Public Transportation. There's not any changes that I could see from our past one, other than a few things that are wording that they've done based on changes from at the national level. That just a few wordings here and there based on, I'm not really sure what they're based on, but I guess the best way to say things is rewording some things. So, but essentially in the way we do things, that our procedure will not change. We have this out on, we will have this out on our public's webpage. I mean, we have the current one now
Sure.
out there. We have little cards posted in each vehicle. We have, there's, if somebody feels that they have been discriminated against, there are complaint forms in all of the vehicles. There's a complaint form out on the website that they can access. So we'll update all those forms after this approval, if you so approve.
And Gary, you did look through it, everything looks good to you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of Lori about this one that we had in our packet? Lori, I don't remember, but did this have a signature page?
It does on the very front page.
The very front page.
Yeah. And that's why I thought I'd give you a hard copy with a little flag on it. I was looking through it to find out where the signature page was
Need all the
as
help
well.
I can get, Lori, thank you.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out, oh, it's on the front page.
We usually look towards the back, don't we?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any questions?
You need a motion.
We do.
A resolution or motion?
Motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Title VI policy change, and I'll ask the presiding officer to sign.
Thank you, Jack.
Second?
Thank you, Daniel. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sykes.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Colbert.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is discuss and act on surplus office equipment from the Veterans Office. Nick?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is, I think Kelly, I'm going to speak for Kelly on this. This is a conversation that Kelly and Mary and myself had, and I think the question is, what would Jill say? So that's why we came here. I bought a desk during COVID, middle of COVID here, and it was way too big for what we needed in our office. So we took it out of the box, we put it back in the box. It's been sitting in the box, taking up room. I went to a meeting with another veteran service officer, and he was looking for one. And I said, well, I actually have one in a box if you want to try it out. It worked for him, it fit his area, so he asked to buy it. We never put it on inventory. We actually, it never came out of the box. So that's when it came, what would Jill do? You know, what would, for audit purposes and everything, knowing that you guys were gonna question the $221 that would be coming in, that he said he'd buy it for what we bought it for. And so now we just need to make it surplus and then basically sell it to him, is kind of what we're after. So that's why it's discuss and act, if we can do that. So he has it already, we're just basically going through the steps of making it right. That'd be about what we agreed.
I think we have to put it on surplus.
Right, I think this is the
Put it
right
on
steps.
Your inventory, put it on the surplus, and then you guys always decide when we're gonna sell the surplus. We always, and I looked a year ago, we did that meeting, like discuss and act on surplus selling about a year ago this time. So, I don't know if it has to be not only Nick's, but everybody's surplus, and I think last year we didn't have a sale,
Right.
we just gave it to move out.
I
We
think
just
so.
distributed it to whoever, and then I think we threw a lot of it away.
Mhm.
Is what we ended up doing.
On this one, he's willing to pay $221.54, so that's why if we would sell it, I mean, I would hate to put it on surplus downstairs get $1 for it or whatever.
Right, exactly. No, and I think that's all fine. I think this is the proper way to go about it. Does surplus have to set in surplus for X amount of days before it's allowed to be sold?
Usually whatever's on surplus, and we do inventory, then that stuff goes down to the surplus.
Okay.
So since it's never been on an inventory,
Right.
I don't know if there's a time limit.
Right, sure.
But yeah, so like, say we did our inventory, and now it's on surplus, and when we do inventory again in July, that surplus stuff will go like to be sold.
Right, sure.
Typically, our extra is unwanted
Right.
office furniture, chairs,
Yep.
whatever, that end up downstairs.
Yep.
That's our typical surplus.
Right.
So I think this is gonna be handled in a different manner.
Sure.
So by making this one piece, I think we're okay with that. I think state statute leaves it kind of open
Yep.
on how we do it
Right.
and how we liquidate and how we sell. If we do it, you know, I know in the past we've done not an auction downstairs, but we marked prices out there and we had somebody sat down there for $5 for, 6 hours or something like that. So, I think this is fine. That we have to deem it on inventory. This motion will put it on inventory and then move it to surplus and then sell it to, who are we selling it to?
Seward County.
It's direct to Seward County, okay, for a price again?
$221.54.
Okay.
We're creating a paper trail, I guess.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so we want a motion first to put it into inventory, or that's been done and we want a motion to move it in?
It's not on inventory.
Right.
I think the motion can entail it.
Okay.
You know, that we'll move this adjustable office desk onto the Veteran Service Officer
Inventory.
And then, you know, also deem it surplus
Surplus.
and sell it to Seward County for $221.54.
Right. If we can do all that in one motion, I so move.
Yeah.
As long as you understand that.
He's good. He's always good. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Ziegler. Sykes.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Yes, okay,
So
thank you.
When you see your check coming in a couple weeks, then that's more now, so appreciate it, thank you guys.
Yeah. Discuss and act on letter of engagement with Woods and Akins. Woods and Akins is a firm that is associated with NERMA, you know, a property casualty insurance carrier. They typically handle, as maybe you've seen, there has a course that will be in April throughout the state, and Woods and Akins is usually the attorneys there on labor law issues and different things like that. We utilize them hugely with our in battle against our previous county attorney, and then we also, you know, throughout the year, I would say a handful of times, visit with them about individual personnel HR cases. So this is just a matter of an engagement they want with us on that. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a flat fee, it's a per incident connection.
Yeah, unfortunately, every time you dial up on the phone, the meter starts ringing, and you know, so it's not cheap. But in the matter of HR, it's very important what they give us.
The one question, like in that first sentence of the first of number 1, firm to represent the client regarding matters within the scope of NERMA hotline. The NERMA hotline, are some of that is covered by our agreement with NERMA, or every time we call that hotline, there's a charge? Do we know?
To my knowledge, the charges that I have seen and written off on are when Pam is contacted, or not Pam, Ashley.
We usually talk to Pam, but I don't think she charges us like when Cheryl calls to have
Right.
a question.
Right.
It doesn't seem like, I've never seen a charge for that.
Right, yeah, that, because the way I understand it, that, you know, simple, quick chats through NERMA's hotline, this engagement would be more for a in-depth HR situation that we would be utilizing them for.
Any other
Right, yeah, right. I think they have provided, they've proved to provide us a good service in the past, and I don't see any reason why not to continue an engagement with them.
The only change I have is the phone number that's listed on the front cover will be changed to 7759.
You don't want that one?
I do know. That's actually the shop number that's listed there, so we'll change that.
Are we leaving your
That's fine.
email on there?
But in most cases, they,
Right.
because I usually get those correspondence.
Sure.
I'll look at the back, we'll change all that. It says client name, the email address, billing contact. $77.
Yeah, clerk's office.
Perfect. I would make a motion that we approve the letter of engagement with Woods and Aiken and sign, authorize chairman to sign acceptance.
Thank you, Danny.
Second.
Thank you, Stan. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Yes.
Seaver.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and do committee reports before we go into an executive session. So does anybody have anything this morning? Stan, you got anything?
We met with Harv. I found out what his procedure is as far as working with employees and his whole pattern he has with his procedure of working with his employees. We went through all that. And of course, we discussed what he discussed with us here. And I also went to the Farm Bureau annual meeting in York County and heard our senator talk. She talked about a lot of frustration working with unicameral, and not many bills will get to see the light of day, and the ones that do will have maybe many bills attached to it, which is kind of sad, because some of the things that will be attached to it, they can't discuss individually, and there might be some of those bills they don't really like, but in order to get the big picture through, they might have to pass some of them. So, and that's basically it. Tonight I'm going to go to Seward for a meeting with Blue Valley, and Friday I go to a orientation meeting with Region 5 in Lincoln. That's it.
Thank you. Daniel?
So we continue discussions with the tech committee and our subcommittee. We had a good discussion last week looking at different IT policies. We asked each department to bring us their department's IT needs and what they envision as far as what they need from a troubleshooting side as well as from a hardware side. Along with that, we're attempting to put together a overall IT inventory, so we kind of know what offices have what, so we can kind of have an idea of what hardware is out there in the county, to see if, what we can do to streamline and consolidate to hopefully save some money in some areas. So then we've received some sample policies from a couple other counties, and we also have some sample policies that Homeland Security has put together. So it was decided that the tech committee would now take the information that the IT or that the subcommittee provided, along with those sample policies, and begin a high-level draft of a York County policy, and then regroup with the subcommittee to review that and make sure that we're headed in the right direction, that everybody, each department is agreeing with the direction that policy is taking shape on. Attended the YCDC annual meeting and banquet. So it was a good evening. That was also last Thursday. There was 3 recipients of the York County Impact Award. Dr. Mitch Bartholomew, Jim Green from McCool, and Dr. Sue Crawford. And so good recipients for that. And then the new officers on the exec board were announced. Eric will continue as president, and Jane Jensen will assume the role as vice president for this coming year. And yeah, seems to be what I have to offer right now.
Okay. Woody?
I attended the Republican Committee conference meeting for the city in the York County area. So it was York County teachers merging those 2 entities together. I went to Kearney, Mendon for a couple days to check on the Sandhill crane population and status. And went to the technology meeting and same conversation, although I got a tour following that meeting down to the server room and some of the security stuff that was there, so it was possible.
Good.
Well, as we've already discussed, we had a aging meeting on the 8th day after our board meeting here, and I don't think I need to go over the whole thing again. So that was the meeting that we had there, and we have an upcoming Four Corners Health Board meeting, that we're gonna be discussing some of these political things you have to go through, Bill, to get the ball rolling on the renovation of that building, so that will be interesting. Over my head. That's it.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. I also attended with Daniel the YCDC annual banquet, and Senator Adrian Smith was there and gave a brief talk, and which was interesting. I don't know that we've ever had not Senator, Congressman, I'm sorry, Adrian Smith was there. I don't know if we've ever had a U.S. Congressman at one of those before, so it was nice to have him there. Our state senator was there, and it's nice to hear that she has been to a couple things. One thing I think we lacked in the last several years is a presence in York County from our state senator. That's one of the things that I impressed upon her that I felt like we needed. And I know that they've been in session, and I know session is a mess, but I look to continue to push to see her here, especially if she wants to continue to do that past that 4-year time frame. But she was there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Visitors Grill we had last week. There'll be another, we had a couple more grant applications in front of us for improvement. One was rejected, one was accepted. So the one that was accepted will be coming in front of us, I assume, in this coming month. This Thursday is NACO Central District in Aurora, and I believe some of you are signed up to go to that, and we will figure out if we want to transport together or whatever, and you've seen the agenda, I hope, those that are going, what's going to be available for us there that day. Just a reminder, as we talked just briefly about the budget earlier today, the budget is coming to a close. We will be starting, typically the budget process for York County is started in June. We will start it in May this year. It seems like we are always behind the gun. So we will have a kickoff meeting the first part of May versus the first part of June, and hopefully alleviate some of the pressure we feel when crunch comes in August, end of July, 1st of August. The opioid settlement for the next 5 that was granted the chair to sign. So those numbers, I have received those numbers, and I will forward those to everybody. They're an expanded settlement over time, and so I will get that information from you. I did receive an email this week from NACO, and in light of the recent bank closures, there has been some questions apparently put forward to NACO about what is the security of our money that we have in the bank, and of course it's the same under that $250,000. But as we go forward, and we haven't done any for a while, we have pledged securities, and our money, the county's money, is secure, and they just want us to reiterate and point out to the public that those are the steps we go through. When we do have the pledged securities, we sometimes release them or accept them, so that money that we do have is secure. Lastly, I would like to touch upon a zoning announcement. It should be in the paper because of the paper having different timelines and deadlines that have changed over recent months. There will be an announcement in the paper. It looks like this Thursday. The announcement will be for a meeting Monday, the 27th at 6 o'clock at Holtus Convention Center. And this is to address the zoning. And then there will also be that will address the zoning that we've been talking about. There will also be additional meetings by that planning commission to address a couple what was put in as variances that couldn't be done as variances. They need to be done as something else. So there will be planning commission meetings also to address those. They will probably be held separately. We are, the one in particular has been working on his adjustment for several months now. We want to try to streamline that as much as possible. and not tie that in with these other meetings. Plus, there's 10-day notifications, whereas the general notification of a planning commission meeting is, I believe, follows the Open Meeting Act, which is reasonable. You know, that's the word that's being used. So as this will be a few days ahead of time. Obviously, this public announcement adds to that. I would also like to say that my phone started ringing yesterday morning at a very early time. And I don't know what, I'm embarrassed, I'm sad that this all took place. We will go into executive session next to discuss a little bit about zoning and zoning administrator personnel issues. This, York County is overall responsible for, and when something lets down, it's us letting them down too. And that's unacceptable. It's been going on too long, and I didn't get involved until it hit our agenda this week, and then I got involved to find out things had done wrong. So now I'm going to get and stay involved through the planning process of this other stuff to get it done. We have failed the citizens of York County over the last year, and we can't do it anymore. And we will answer to it. I will answer to it. I answered to it several times yesterday on the phone with very lengthy conversations. What has been done is done, and as I talked to the county attorney yesterday, the best we can do is move forward, but we have to move forward in the right direction. We cannot move at a sidestep anymore. We have to move forward. So with that, that is the end of my report. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
I just have, with the tech committee, we did a cyber hygiene. There is going to be a WebEx about the grant money, so how we can use it for grant money. So I don't know if you want to attend to that. I don't know when the date, I can't remember what it was. And then they did ask if there should be another, like a backup. We have me, and then another backup besides our IT people, in case I'm gone or something.
Right.
So those are the two things I
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, committee reports are done. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session where we discuss personnel matters. Joining us in the executive session will be the county attorney, and is the deputy county attorney available to join us? Do you know if he's here or if he has?
He's in court right now.
Okay. Okay. So,
I would make that motion.
10:22.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes.
I'll be here when you get done.